Hi all. Okay, so this is video 6 and this one is all about working with layers. So previously we managed to insert this plot 68 into the drawing, and so the next phase that we need to look at doing is actually to create the center lines for the dig. So it's showing here we've got a 600 wide trench fill, and we've also got a 450 wide one here. But at the moment the drawing is quite complicated and it's still got a load of stuff going on underneath it and around it. So it's a lot easier to work on the drawing when there's a lot less information showing. So such as the actual sort of dark grey areas that you can see behind the drawing. If we get rid of those, that will clear things up a lot and make it a lot more easy to work on. So the way we do that is to actually go into layers, and you should have a layer properties manager up on the left here. If you don't have that showing, you can click on layer properties here and it will then come up as a dialog box like so. Now what you need to do is we need to actually find out what layer the grayed out information is on. By doing that, you can, if you select that layer, then you can see up here that it says it's TSP XREF site, which is the layer that we worked on previously, which we locked. So what we want to do is click on that, and we're going to turn that layer off, which is the little sun icon. So we've turned that one off and it's disappeared off off the plan, and that means that we've got a much clearer idea of what we're doing, hopefully. What we also need to do is when we create our new lines for our center line for our dig, we want to create those in a different layer so it shows up better, because if we created another line which was white, we'd have real difficulty seeing it over the actual background lines that we've got existing already. What we can also do is we can lock this layer, which currently is layer 0. So we can lock that layer. Let's move up a bit. And lock that. That means that should also be slightly more grayed out, which will make it easier to see what we're doing, and we also won't be then changing anything about this, moving it around or anything, because it's on a locked layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a layer called centerline, and we're also going to create a layer called point. There's obviously quite a few layers in this drawing at the moment, lots of them on an external reference layer which has been merged with the drawing. As you can see, it's got an X to start with, which I went through earlier in the previous video. But we're not really worried about that. All we're going to do is actually create 2 new layers. So the easiest way of doing that is to right click on any of these layers. It doesn't really matter which one, because we're going to change the information on it. So right click, select new layer, and we'll call this center line, and we'll also change the color because we don't want it to be white. And you do that by going into this little color box here, just to the right of the locked icon. What you also find, you may find that your dialog box here comes up slightly small. You can drag it out. If you hover over the end of the line, you can use the forward and back arrow keys to just make that whole box bigger, which makes it somewhat easier to see what's going on. And you can also do the same with these boxes as well. So I don't need freeze to be such a large box, so you can just take that down a bit. And also the layers can be taken down as well. But yeah, so we're going to change the color of that. what's worth doing is looking at the drawing to see what other colours there are on the drawing. But obviously we've taken everything off, so we can be fairly happy in the knowledge that we know that something like green will show up against the grey. So we'll do green for the centre line, and then we're going to right click on the centre line and create another layer called points. So these layers are going to be what we do on the next video, where we're going to create the actual centre lines for the dig. The points, I think we'll go with the yellow for that. And I think we want to make, so now we've created those two layers, we want to make one of those a current layer. And since we're going to be working on centre line first, we can right click on the centre line and set current. You'll notice there's a green tick that comes up on the centre line layer. So basically anything that we draw, I just typed L for line, anything we draw should, in theory, come up as green and on the centre line layer. Now, one thing that you may notice, which has just happened with me, is that it is on the centre line layer, but it's actually coming up blue, which means that our object colour up here is not set to by layer, which we want to change. We want to make that by layer, and that's just to the right of the match properties, and it's the object colour. So that should be by layer. Once you set that to by layer, it goes to green, which is the right colour for us and what we want. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to layers. We'll work on video 7 next.